If you're skinny and wanting abs, the answer isn't skinnier. The answer is let's build muscle. Get in, losers. We're going lifting. I've had this conversation with clients. I've had this conversation with followers. Heck, I've even had this conversation with myself. If the goal is you want to see definition in your arms, in your legs, in your abs, you want to build up your butt, and you are somebody who is technically, skinny or skinny fat, the answer is not, let's lose more weight. Let's do more cardio. Let's restrict calories. Let's cut out carbs. Come here. The answer is we need to build muscle. How do you build muscle? I'm going to tell you right now. Number one, we need to lift in an 8 to 12 rep range. That's going to help us build muscle. We need to focus in on compound exercises that work these bigger muscles. That's your deadlift. That's your squat. That's something like a bent over row. That's something like a chest press. We need to do enough volume. So it's probably something like 3, maybe even up to 5 sets. We need to focus on a few of these exercises in a session instead of doing a gajillion different exercises. And we need to repeat them multiple times over the course of 8, maybe even up to 16 weeks, making things just a little bit harder and a little bit harder, maybe an extra rep here, maybe an extra set there. That's part 1. Part 2, we need to eat enough of the right macro splits to actually build muscle. Now, if you are somebody who is skinny, and the concept of eating more calories makes you think that you are going to gain weight. If your goal is to build definition, yeah, you are going to gain weight, most likely. And that's okay, because guess what? Your self-worth is not dictated by a number on the scale. And it's okay for your body to change. If you want definition, you don't have any, and it's not like there's a whole lot of weight on your body to lose, then we got to build. Now, when it comes to building muscle, we need the right macronutrient splits for this. So here's how I want you to think of it in a bite size. Carbs are going to give us energy. We need carbs. Fats are going to help to regulate our hormones. So we need fats. Protein is going to be the prime builder after we go into this heavy lifting session and we break down these muscle fibers. And it's actually, you can kind of think of it as protein is kind of like carbs and protein after you work out. It's kind of like a truck delivering like food to the grocery store. The food on the truck is the protein and the truck is the carbs. You need the combination of the protein and the carbs on the truck to be delivered in a way where we see an increase in rebuilding these muscle fibers. And if you just do the protein alone, all 3 of these macros, they play a really big role. So please do not skip your fats, your proteins, or your carbs. You need all of them to build this muscle. And specifically when it comes to building muscle, and if you are listening to this, and I know you definitely fall more so into the class of skinny mini, I need you to hear me on this. You need to eat enough if you are trying to build. Doesn't mean you necessarily need to go into a calorie surplus. You might, but if you're brand new to strength training, I guarantee you, already being in the body you are in, if you just start lifting and eating enough to be in more of like a maintenance, you're going to see a lot change in a relatively short amount of time. Relatively short amount of time. I'm going to use my sister-in-law as an example. She was somebody who was randomly doing Kayla Itson Instagram workout videos. She would walk. She would do like an hour-long walk every day. And she really wanted to start seeing some definition in her body. And she started seeing definition in as short as 8 weeks. I have this DIY program called Foundations, and it's where you're just doing some of these more foundational exercises like learning how to deadlift, learning how to squat, starting to do bent over rows. You learn how to swing a kettlebell. And she just started doing that stuff. And we started seeing a change in her arms. Body fat was going down. We started seeing more muscle appearing, which was really cool. And then she went into my intensive and she spent 3 months on top of those initial 2. And man, the definition that we started seeing in her abdominals and her legs was noticeable. So this stuff doesn't have to take a tremendous amount of time given where your starting point is, but you do need to do the right things. When it comes to you and protein, you want to take your weight in pounds and convert it to kilo. You're going to divide it by 2.2. You will then multiply that number by 1.2. That is the low range of protein you are trying to get every single day. And then you'll take the same number, but multiply it by 2. That's the high range that you are going to aim for every day. It's the combination of lifting in this specific way and getting enough protein that is going to allow you to start building this muscle. Because listen, right now, your body fat, it's relatively low. So going lower isn't going to give you this muscle mass. What's going to give you this muscle mass, what's going to give you this definition, this toned look, is building muscle. You've already done the part that's really hard for a lot of people, which is having a low enough body fat percentage that muscle will be revealed. So what you need to do now, because we see that there's nothing that is being revealed other than, skinniness, is taking the time to build the muscle up. And you can totally do that. It's lifting. It's eating the right macro splits. You have the protein number. Here's what I'm going to tell you with the other stuff, because it really does depend. It depends on how active you are in your current lifestyle. If you have any type of, autoimmune disorders or, food sensitivities, like there's different things to kind of keep in mind in terms of, well, how much do I eat? Your carbs are most likely going to be higher than that protein number, and your fats are most likely going to be lower than that protein number. If you want to get more specific about what those numbers should be for you, consulting with somebody like a registered dietitian is going to be fantastic. But here's what I would encourage you to do. Just start tracking what it is you're eating. So go to the food label, everything that you're eating for the most part, if, this seems a little daunting, and just start writing it down and start to notice, well, how much protein am I actually getting? How many carbs am I actually getting? Do I feel energized throughout the day? If you do, and you are, and you've been, maintaining this weight, let's just see what happens now once you start eating enough protein within that range that I just gave you. You start to do that and you start to lift appropriately. And I guarantee you're going to start to see this muscle popping out and it's going to feel awesome. And you happen to be somebody who doesn't need the cut, which is really cool. I think a lot of people are they're either like excited that they get to do a calorie deficit or they're dreading it. And that's not something that you need to think about. You just need to start lifting and getting enough protein and potentially, playing around with your carb and fat intake, and you will start to see a change. Absolutely. You do want to make sure that when you start lifting, you are going for a minimum of 2. If you are already an active person, if you can get in there at least 3 times a week, I think that it's absolutely a leg up. You can lift. I would recommend to somebody who is really looking to make big change quick and the concern of burnout because, maybe they haven't been doing anything isn't a concern. You could start lifting 4, if not 5 times a week, depending on your program and how your body is responding to it. And what I will say is when you do have a well thought out program and you do have the willingness and The ability in your schedule to do more, yes, I do believe you training 4 to 5 times a week lifting is going to accelerate your results over somebody who's doing 2 or 3 times. But you need to meet yourself where you're at. You know, if you haven't been doing anything and you are able to get in 2 to 3 times a week, that is huge. I would never tell somebody who hasn't been doing anything consistently, let's just dive right into 5, because it can be exciting in the beginning, but it can lead to burnout. At least that's what I've experienced in the last decade of being in the fitness industry as a professional. But you can absolutely start to see changes if you are coming in with the 2 to 3 days a week, or if you're somebody who has been, you know, doing things 2 to 3 days a week and you want the bump up and you're down to go for 45, go for it. I think the big thing to just kind of keep in mind, you specifically, you are somebody who does identify as skinny and you want definition, you want strength. It's not going to come from the cardio. Cardio doesn't build muscle. Cardio burns calories. You know, I don't know if you know this, but when you are working out, you are actually going to burn more calories doing a cardio session. Like if we have this, like it's a very even playing field in terms of intensity, you will burn more calories doing cardio than you will lifting. However, when you are lifting and you are building muscle, you end up speeding up your metabolism. So throughout the entirety of the day, not just the time you spent working out, your body will start to burn more calories. For those of you who are skinny and you want to go strong, don't worry about the cardio. Don't worry about cutting calories. Instead, for you, the answer most likely is let's eat more. Let's be strategic. Let's make sure we are getting that protein abso-freaking-lutely. And it's starting to lift. It's starting to lift with progressive overload, doing the right exercises, doing the right amount of volume to actually see results take place. You can totally do this. I had a client, oh my gosh, I was so excited to train this person. And I kicked myself in the butt because if I'm being completely honest, the results that she was looking for, I had not experienced this yet in my own journey as a person or as a trainer. And I feel like if I got a second chance with her, the results I could help her with would have been insane because she was the person who had the time, who had the whole team in place. I just didn't have the right strength training strategy for her. But she was somebody who was on TV, and she has scenes occasionally where she is naked. And she really wanted to change how her body looked. And I remember having a conversation with her. She was like, I think I need to lose more weight. Like, what do you think about, Ozempic? And I was like, no. Actually, at the time, I was like, what's Ozempic? But when I think about it now, I'm just like, no, that's definitely not the answer. Like, the answer for you is let's build muscle. Let's build some definition, some curves on your body. The answer is not lose more weight. Your weight is low as it is. We need to build you up. And yeah, I don't really know what happened, but if she did start eating more protein and she did get on a progressive strength training program that really did focus in on building muscle for the sake of aesthetics, man, I would imagine her results would have popped off pretty quickly in a gnarly way. But yeah, if you are that person who is skinny, you wear a size small, you wear a size extra small, you wear a size extra small, and you're thinking, in order to get definition, I need to lose more weight. No, you don't. You need to build muscle. We lift, we fuel for the goal. Build muscle. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to give us a follow so you never miss an episode.